Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to another video. I just wanted to talk a little bit about Battlefield and Call of Duty and how those two relate to each other. I have this crazy concept in my mind that I wanted to float past you guys and see what you all think about it. I know it's kind of crazy. Basically, that premise is that I think Activision should let Infinity Ward go and just set them loose, maybe give them to EA, and then EA can give DICE over to Activision and they can do whatever they want with them. But then when EA has Infinity Ward on their side, they can tell them to go make a grounded Battlefield game. So why do I think this? I know all the time we talk about how Battlefield is turning into Call of Duty, so this concept might be a little antithetical to my overall premise of what I think a Battlefield game should be, but I've noticed a lot of things with Infinity Ward that over the years since they made Modern Warfare 2019, even up until today, there's a lot of controversy that goes on within the Call of Duty community because of the things that Infinity Ward decides to do with the Call of Duty franchise and those Infinity Ward Call of Duty games. It seems like Infinity Ward as a studio is kind of at odds with what the Call of Duty player base actually wants from a Call of Duty game. I see all the time across Twitter and YouTube comment sections, YouTube videos, all of these people saying that, oh, we hate Infinity Ward, we hate what they do, and these are all Call of Duty players talking. And it's very interesting for me to see as maybe more of a casual Call of Duty player that doesn't really buy all of the Call of Duty games to see this happening. For a little bit of background about my experience with Call of Duty, my first Call of Duty was Call of Duty 3 on the PS2. I didn't own an Xbox 360 or a PS3 at the time, so I really only got to play games like Call of Duty 4 and Modern Warfare 2 kind of in short bursts, just at friends' houses. It wasn't until maybe a year or two after those games came out that I was actually even able to play these Call of Duty games. I did buy Modern Warfare 3, the original one, in 2011, and I played that a little bit. But that's really all my experience with Call of Duty. At that point, that's when I switched over to Battlefield. I saw the Battlefield 3 trailer, and I said, oh, this game is it. And I went, and I think I traded in Modern Warfare 3, and then I used that money and maybe a little bit from my parents or my birthday money or something like that to buy Battlefield 3, and then for the PS3. And I just completely ran with that game, and I've been a Battlefield player ever since. There's been a couple Call of Duty games that I've tried over the years, very intermittently at this point. I'm kind of more of a casual when it comes to Call of Duty itself. But I tried Advanced Warfare when the whole movement Call of Duty thing with the jetpacks and all that was coming out. I didn't really play those. I didn't really like it when I played it. I prefer just playing Battlefield or even a game like Titanfall or something like that, right? So as I got a bit older, I really appreciated the more grounded approach that Battlefield took to game design and gameplay, and I really liked that feeling. It was kind of the middle ground between the milsim and the arcade game like Call of Duty, right? But that's not to say that the Call of Duty fan base had certain things that they like from Call of Duty, right? They like a certain style of gameplay that's very fast-paced, very tight gunplay, not a lot of grounded mechanics getting in the way of the gameplay, which I think totally makes sense. That's just what they like from Call of Duty, and Call of Duty's built a brand around that. So when Call of Duty announced Modern Warfare 2019 in May of that year, I saw this new approach that they were taking to Call of Duty, having it be more tactical and grounded feeling with gritty, realistic cosmetics and all these other things. All of these new approaches that they were taking to Call of Duty were something that for me as a Battlefield player that appreciates more grounded gameplay, like I said, they really stuck out to me, and I was very interested in the game. And I did end up buying Modern Warfare 2019, and I thought it was a pretty solid game overall. I know in the Call of Duty community, there's a lot of people that don't really like what Modern Warfare 2019 did for the Call of Duty franchise, but as a COD casual, as it were, I actually liked the game for the most part. There were some things that I wasn't a huge fan of. For example, the slide canceling and that whole meta that developed over that game's life cycle. If they didn't have a couple of those things in there, I would have probably played a lot more Modern Warfare 2019. I didn't stick around for Vanguard or Cold War or anything like that. Those games weren't really that interesting to me. But Infinity Ward then came out with Modern Warfare 2. And there was a video retrospective about Modern Warfare 2 that a guy named The One Boom made. I think he's a Call of Duty YouTuber, called Was Infinity Ward Making a Milsim COD Game? And in this video, he describes some of the issues with Modern Warfare 2 that came out in 2022, and Infinity Ward's approach to Call of Duty gameplay that maybe was a bit at odds with the Call of Duty fan base, as I've talked about. Call of Duty players have a very specific flavor of gameplay that they want from Call of Duty, and it seemed like Infinity Ward was going against that in a lot of ways with a lot of the features they were adding to not only Modern Warfare 2019, but Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare 3, and I think a lot of people have fears over Modern Warfare 4 doing the same thing when that comes out later this year. But as a Battlefield player who likes the grounded style of gameplay, there was a lot of features here in Modern Warfare 2019 and Modern Warfare 2 that I thought were really good features that I would love to see in a Battlefield game. The One Boom in his video goes on to describe a little bit about how Infinity Ward wanted the player of a Call of Duty game to think a little more tactically and approach every gameplay situation in a little bit more of a thoughtful way than maybe the Twitch reaction type of gameplay that Call of Duty had had up until that point. And I think that's a very cool approach, at least from my perspective. Maybe from a Call of Duty player's perspective, this is not good. It seems like Infinity Ward really wanted to restrict the type of movements you could do, the pace of the gameplay, the way that animations were, the very visceral, tactile feeling that a lot of the weapons had. The One Boom explains in his video how maybe Infinity Ward was influenced by a lot of these more tactical shooter games and milsim games like Escape from Tarkov, Squad, Insurgency Sandstorm, all of these games that take a more realistic approach to gameplay, affecting Call of Duty in a certain way, and affecting Infinity Ward's overall vision for what they want Call of Duty to be. And the One Boom goes on to describe a little bit more about how he thinks Activision actually came in halfway through development and told Infinity Ward to change certain things about the gameplay. I think Activision saw the writing on the wall with the COD community and what they want from a Call of Duty game as a whole as not matching the vision that Infinity Ward wanted to put into their Modern Warfare games. And I think that's a very valid thing for Activision to do, actually. Mainly because the Call of Duty player base has a certain thing that they like, and they don't really want to get away from that too much, right? And we've seen this too with the reaction to these Modern Warfare games from a lot of the Call of Duty player base, especially the hardcore community. They really do not like these games in a lot of cases, which I've noticed. For me, as a casual Call of Duty player, I think they're actually pretty decent games for the most part. They do a lot of things that I think are pretty cool, but a lot of the grounded, authentic features that Infinity Ward wanted to put into Call of Duty to change the gameplay, to make it more visceral and tactile and immersive in a lot of ways, it's really lost on the Call of Duty fan base. It's something that they don't appreciate. They don't want that from a Call of Duty game. And so I think Infinity Ward is kind of left in between a rock and a hard place here. Same with Activision too, actually. They have all of these competing visions, right? And Infinity Ward wants to make a certain game, and Activision wants them to make a certain game. The Call of Duty player base wants them to make a certain game as well. And it seems like the entirety of Call of Duty is kind of at odds with each other. It seems like Sledgehammer Games and Treyarch, they make some games that the Call of Duty player base likes a bit better. They make the Black Ops games and things like that. But one thing I've noticed is that whenever an Infinity Ward Call of Duty is on the docket, a lot of the Call of Duty players are like, here we go again. Infinity Ward's going to do their craziness, right? So this brings me to my main point. I think Activision and EA should trade development studios between each other. Activision gives Infinity Ward over to EA, and EA gives DICE over to Activision. And so, how would this actually play out? I know with EA, they always get in the way. They just want to kind of be Call of Duty, so they're telling DICE, hey, make us a Call of Duty game, and DICE kind of buckles under the pressure in their execution in a lot of ways, especially since this mandate from EA to have DICE create them their own Call of Duty game goes at odds with a lot of the things that the Battlefield player base wants. I see an opportunity here for, if EA was willing to play ball a little bit with the community, for Infinity Ward to come in and make a grounded Battlefield game for us. Now, they haven't made a Battlefield game before. I don't really think they would get it completely right on the first try, but I do think Infinity Ward as a studio has the correct vision for a lot of the features that we might want out of a Battlefield game. We don't want it to just be a Call of Duty clone, obviously. And this is kind of ironic to say that, hey, I want a Call of Duty-centric studio to be making Battlefield games, but I think Infinity Ward does a lot of really great things in terms of their animations, their overall approach to making military games that just feel grounded and have this type of feel and look to them, especially with the animations, the design of the levels. They do a lot of things that I see as a Battlefield player, and I'm like, man, I wish they would just make us a Battlefield game, or even like a tactical shooter that was maybe a bit more realistic. I think they could really make something really awesome, but they're just kind of shackled to the Call of Duty franchise at this point. Now, do I think this would actually happen? No, absolutely not. I don't think Activision would see giving up such a valuable asset as Infinity Ward as something that would be beneficial for their business, especially since it seems like they're the ones that kind of have built the engine that Call of Duty games run on. But I think for Infinity Ward as a studio, like I said, I think they might feel like they're a little shackled to the franchise itself. They have a certain vision for a game that they want to make, but it seems like Activision does get in the way a little bit and meddles with their vision. In the One Booms video, he describes a little bit about this with Modern Warfare 2 came out and had this very grounded aesthetic from the very beginning. And then as time went on, they started adding crazy skins in the shop and tracer packs and all these crazy things that maybe didn't really fit with the tone of that game. And I don't think Infinity Ward necessarily wanted to do that to their game, because I think they may have seen it as, hey, we're trying to make the most gritty, grounded Call of Duty game ever made. And then you have Activision coming from the top saying, hey, we need to fill out the store bundles in the shop and do some crazy collaborations and things like that. So I can see how someone at Infinity Ward, or even the studio as a whole, might be a little frustrated with how they're being treated with the Call of Duty franchise. And I think they've just kind of grown apart from the Call of Duty player base, kind of just in general. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with Modern Warfare 4, but I think my point stands that with the vision that Infinity Ward has as a studio, they actually could, if they were set up by EA properly, to make a very grounded, gritty Battlefield game that we all dream of and wish for, that DICE can't really deliver anymore. But obviously that would take EA having to sit back and say, hey, yeah, we're not going to try to trend chase Call of Duty anymore, and we're just going to let the Battlefield developers cook and make what the Battlefield player base wants. I know for myself, as a casual Call of Duty player, I'm probably getting a lot of things incorrect here when it comes to the sentiment, because I'm not super plugged into it. I like to listen to guys like T-Dog and Nero Cinema, Blame Truth. These are some guys that I listen to about Call of Duty, and they rant and rave about certain things, and it's very interesting and fun for me to listen to as just a casual Call of Duty player. But as a more hardcore Battlefield player, I see a lot of things that Battlefield misses out on, and it seems like EA and Battlefield Studios at this point just really have the wrong vision for what Battlefield should and could be. And I think maybe if a new, fresh face like Infinity Ward coming in and creating a very grounded, gritty Battlefield game, they would probably do a lot of cool things, but it also could completely blow up and be a completely stupid idea, which I totally get. So, I don't know, I just thought this was a fun video to think about and theorize about. I wonder if anything this drastic could ever happen. I know there probably is a bit of enmity between Infinity Ward and Call of Duty as a franchise, and same with the Call of Duty player base. It seems like they don't really like Infinity Ward now in a lot of cases, which is funny to me. I think what they should do is they should just cut Infinity Ward loose and let Sledgehammer Games and Treyarch just kind of take the charge on making Call of Duty releases. Don't do them yearly anymore. Just do like every couple years or 3 years or something like that. And then let Infinity Ward go do their own thing. Let them go make a really awesome tactical shooter that they obviously want to make, and kind of unshackle them from the Call of Duty player base that doesn't seem to be interested in those features that Infinity Ward wants to put in. I think they do a lot of innovative things when it comes to tactical shooter features, and it's all lost on the Call of Duty player base. So it's unfortunate that we're not seeing a really cool, rounded tactical shooter come out from Infinity Ward just because it's a Call of Duty game, right? It would be really cool if they just were able to unshackle themselves from Call of Duty and make what they want. But what do you guys think? Is this a stupid idea? I know I'm just kind of going crazy here, but there's not too much going on in Battlefield land at this point, and I don't know what Battlefield 6 will eventually end up being or what the next Battlefield game will be, but we're kind of stuck in between a rock and a hard place as the Battlefield community, and it's just fun to think about these things, right? So if you liked the video, feel free to give it a like, and if you want to stick around and hear me rant and rave and yap about things, feel free to subscribe if you want to. Thanks for watching.